Teachers of Reddit, what is the biggest holy shit red flag of any kind you've seen from a student? NSFW. I was giving a spelling test to my third graders and one student calmly got out her glue and poured it in her ear. I teach middle school math. We have a Saturday school once a month for students with failing grades to get extra help in whatever subject. One kid did not want to be there and he was placed in a conference room in the office so he didn't disturb the other kids. So this kid pulled out a tooth. An adult tooth. He pulled it out of his face. It was terrible. My friend teaches and told me this. He had a student who constantly picked at his scabs. He would rip them off and eat them. Then lick the blood off his fingers. Then pull alcohol swabs out of his backpack and clean the wound while smiling creepily. He made everyone feel super uncomfortable and grossed out. But no matter what, he wasn't removed from the class. Finally one day my friend comes back from the teacher's lounge to find him using a letter opener under his skin and moving it back and forth. Blood everywhere. When asked what he was doing he said his skin itches and it's best to get it at the source. The kid was finally removed from the school. My friend never found out where or what happened to him though. There was a kid in my brother's 5th grade class who tattooed himself with pen ink. It worked and he was forced to wear sleeves when he played on the middle school basketball team so they didn't show. He's in prison. Mom taught for 30+ years. About 10 of them were in a self-contained classroom. So, if kids didn't succeed in this self-contained unit, they were expelled entirely, so worst of the worst. She loved the kids and over that time had only 2 that truly frightened her. The common thread was they had no affect whatsoever. They were never happy, never sad, never jealous, never vengeful. It was just nothing. At least the kids who were angry, frustrated, apathetic, silly, etc. were feeling something. Of those 2 kids, one is now in jail for a long time. She doesn't know what became of the other one. Used to have a kid in my class that enjoyed hurting others. Laughing right after throwing something at a student and laughing harder at them being affected by said action. I teach in an area that has been very affected by the opioid epidemic. I taught a student who was well known to be addicted to heroin. He was also the person who gave his mother her first dose of the drug. His mother died of an overdose. The last time I saw him he had self-tattooed on his arm "I killed my mom" in huge letters. My mom is a special education teacher, mostly kids with autism and learning disorders. Middle school aged, but her program has gotten students who don't fit into regular classes. So they get dumped into her program. One of the students, about 6 to 7 years back, was super weird. He was mouthy, hated authority, and was a lot bigger than the other kids. He wrote "I am gonna rape Miss Teacher" in bright red Sharpie on a paper he had to pass into another teacher. They called his parents into school to talk about it. And the student's mom started laughing about it. She said that her child had a weird sense of humor. But he meant no harm to anyone. She also had another student whose parents had him miss school on December 21st, 12 because the world could end. And they couldn't expect him to spend his final day at school. There's a kid in this preschool class, aged 5, that says the most off-the-wall stuff. So far this school year, she has said that her dad is going to come to the school and kill kids and their families. That she has a doll that will come to this other little girl's house and cut her heart out, eat it and cut her legs off. And finally that her dad shoots kittens. At this point, I'm thinking of calling CPS or at least pushing the issue with the school district because there is no reasonable explanation as to why a 5-year-old would be saying these disturbing things. Not a teacher, but had a kid in the 2nd grade with me try to stab my eye out with a pencil. Multiple times. He was obsessed and had to be taken out of class and dealt with on several occasions. Never anyone else either. Just me. His reasoning? I had done the same to him in his past life. The stoic, intense look on his face when he said that still gives me chills. My cousin, currently in 1st grade, had a girl in his class throw a computer tower in their classroom and slap and punch the teacher as she tried to gain control. To my knowledge, nothing ever happened to the girl because the teacher and the girl's mother are good friends. They don't want to ruin her time at school by reporting the incident. My mom used to teach in a boys' secondary. This one kid was generally an arsehole, violent, rude, provocative. One day the deputy head dropped down dead of a heart attack in front of some of the kids at break time. Less than 10 minutes later, this particular kid was imitating the teacher dying in front of the others and laughing for entertainment, not in the least fazed by what he'd seen, and had no idea that what he was doing was horrifying. Student skipped the week or two that he had pool time at PE. Counseled his parents at conferences he was exhibiting some gang tendencies, oddly so were the parents. Found out later that year he skipped pool PE class because he had his last name tattooed across his back in Old English. This was a 14-year-old. Too late to the party. But my mom has taught for near 40 years. The only kid that ever truly scared her was a kid that used to act like he was sucking up until he thought she wasn't paying attention. Case in point was when she gave everyone a Christmas gift before break. He fawned over how great the gift was and that he was cherish it forever. The second he thought she wasn't looking, he threw it in the garbage. He was 9. Side note: I worked with him at a telemarketing place in high school. I remember when he told me that he had been diagnosed as a sociopath. He was eating an ice cream cone while explaining it to me and said, basically, a sociopath means I would feel the same way eating this ice cream cone as I would killing a dog. Eesh. I had a student earlier this year who came to me because he was kicked out of his last school, according to him. He was covered in tattoos as a freshman in high school. On the second day of having him in my class, I looked up from my desk while students were supposed to be taking a test to see him miming cutting off my head with something shiny. When I went back to see what it was and he laughed and hid it, swearing he had nothing. I looked up to see him doing it again. Same thing happened. I let it go. After he left the room, I found the pen he had been writing with under his desk with 2 small incisions in the cap. I immediately reported it to admin. He was moved to another teacher a few days later for an unrelated scheduling issue. He threatened to kill her. He was moved to another teacher because of this. In the 3rd teacher's class, he drew pictures of rifles all over his essays. So many red flags. He was finally sent to the alternative school a few months back. But he'll likely be back. There was a kid I knew in 2nd grade. He was wild. When we were in the same class together, the teacher would regularly have to call the assistance team, a group of teachers that would restrain unruly kids and were trained on how to do so. He would throw desks, chairs, scissors once, if remember correctly. The following year, we weren't in the same classroom, but it was a small school, so you'd still hear about things. He tripped a very pregnant teacher, causing her to go into labor. No idea how he didn't get expelled for that, but the final straw was when he found a rusty pocket knife on the playground during recess and stabbed the student sitting next to him in the stomach with it for no reason. Still wonder what happened to him. Oh, and he sucked his thumb regularly. When I first began teaching, we had a student who seemed to get a lot of satisfaction out of manipulating or hurting others. Her behavior escalated, leading to a brief hospital stint after killing her puppy. When she returned to school, she bragged gleefully about it and shortly thereafter began writing death threats in blood on the walls of bathroom stalls. As much as I hate to say it, she's one I wouldn't be surprised to see in the news in a few years.